The Amazon is often sold as a pristine wilderness, untouched by human hands since the dawn of time. But that label implies the land was empty when it wasn't. This isn't a nature reserve, it's an abandoned estate. And the previous owners were a civilization we've been dismissing as primitive for 500 years. Because we ignored the eyewitness report. February 1542. The Spanish conquistador Francisco de Orellana is sailing down the Amazon River. He's starving, his men are rotting in their armour, and they're looking for a fairy tale. They're hunting for El Dorado, the golden man myth. Instead, they find a traffic jam. Orellana was met by thousands of canoes ready for war. They were guarding a chain of settlements stretching hundreds of miles along the river. Orellana's official report to the King of Spain described a single town stretching for 15 miles without a break. But this was unlike any city in Europe. In 1542, cities like London were cramped, walled-in cesspits. If you wanted fresh air, you left. If you wanted water, you boiled it. And if you wanted to live past 30, you were an optimist. The Amazonians had invented something better: low-density urbanism. They didn't build up. They built out. It was a network of garden cities on a continental scale, a decentralized web of farms and suburbs that avoided the filth and squalor that choked European cities. But when Orellana got back to Spain and presented his case to the Council of the Indies, he was met with total skepticism. To a 16th century European, if you didn't stack rocks, you weren't a civilization. You were just camping. Rome had marble. The Incas had granite. Presenting a kingdom of mud was the architectural equivalent of showing up to a gunfight with a balloon animal. History essentially laughed Orellana out of the room, filing his reports under tropical fever for the next 5 centuries. So, why didn't the Amazonians use stone? It wasn't a lack of skill. In Amapá we found the Amazon Stonehenge, huge granite monoliths arranged for astronomy. So they could move stone when they wanted to. The problem was geology. Large, workable stone was scarce and hard to quarry at scale. So they used what they had in abundance: earth and wood. They built massive, solid earthen platforms. Pyramids and causeways packed hard enough to survive floods. On top, they built their cities out of wood. So Orellana was right. The cities and the millions of people were real. But how do you feed a city on dead soil? You might look at that lush jungle and assume the ground is rich. It isn't. Beneath the green canopy is yellow, nutrient-poor clay, about as fertile as a car park. The forest survives by recycling life instantly. Leaves rot, nutrients vanish, and the cycle resets. If you cut the trees to farm, like the Europeans tried centuries later, the soil turns into a brick within 2 seasons. Some groups use the slash and burn method, farming a patch for a few years, then they move on. But the Amazonian engineers stayed put. Starting roughly 2,000 years ago, they hacked the chemistry set. Beneath the wild jungle, we found Terra Preta, dark earth. For decades, archaeologists had ignored these black patches, thinking they were leftovers from prehistoric barbecues. But then we analysed the chemistry. It's not ash, it's technology. Today, scientists call it biochar. It's an engineered soil battery. The Amazonians discovered that if you burn waste at low oxygen, you create a charcoal lattice. A single gram of this stuff can have the surface area of a tennis court. It acts like a luxury condo for bacteria, holding onto nutrients and water for centuries. For 2,000 years, the engineers turned millions of tons of waste into a charcoal sponge that regenerates itself. Forget the clichés about living in harmony with nature. They were chemically terraforming it. And once the soil could hold nutrients, they moved on to the plumbing. In the Bolivian Amazon, the rainy season turns the world into an ocean. But you can't farm underwater. So they landscaped the flood. They built thousands of square miles of raised fields, elevated earth platforms for crops, surrounded by deep canals for the water. It wasn't just drainage, it was a machine. The canals trapped fish when the waters receded, turning the entire landscape into a self-filling fish farm. While parts of Europe were burning witches to make the rain come, the Amazonians were mechanically rerouting the river and treating the landscape like an automated irrigation grid. With the soil and water stabilised, they could treat the forest as inventory. A real wilderness is random. Survival of the fittest. But the plant species in today's Amazon are statistically suspicious. In areas surrounding these ancient sites, up to half of the most common trees aren't random jungle plants. They're the kinds of things you'd recognise from a supermarket shelf. Cocoa, Brazil nuts, rubber. They didn't plant neat rows like a European orchard. They practiced industrial-scale gardening. They nudged the forest for millennia, cutting the less useful plants and boosting the food, until the local ecosystem stopped behaving like wilderness. This isn't a jungle. It's a warehouse gone feral that's now been overgrown for 500 years. But where did the maintenance crew go? This isn't a lost history. It's a tragedy. The engineers didn't just vanish. They caught the flu, and smallpox, and measles, a cocktail of apocalypses delivered by the conquistadors. The pathogens raced down the river highways faster than the boats. They wiped out most of the population in a single generation. And without workers, the soil systems failed. The controlled maintenance burns stopped, the nutrients locked up, and the forest closed in. We might think of fire as the enemy of the forest, but for them it was like a lawnmower. Without it, the weeds took over and strangled the city. The survivors fled the death zones, becoming nomads to survive. But you can't lug a soil battery through a swamp while running for your life. The technology wasn't just abandoned, it was forgotten. The groups that history later labelled Stone Age relics are likely the descendants of these refugees. That primitive hunter-gatherer lifestyle wasn't their tradition, it was their emergency bunker. Without the engineers, the cities didn't stand a chance. The Amazon's home to one of the most efficient demolition crews on the planet, termites. By the time the Victorians arrived, the wood had rotted and the earth was green. In the 1920s, explorers like Percy Fawcett spent years hunting for the lost city of Zed. He wasn't just chasing ruins, he was chasing the wrong material. Fawcett hunted that European fantasy of stone towers, ignoring anything that didn't look like a Roman bathhouse, until the jungle claimed him. He walked over the largest earthworks in the Americas and assumed they were natural hills because his boots didn't click on stone. He couldn't accept that the engineers were already there, hiding in plain sight. The final validation is a race against the clock. We're burning the Amazon to make room for cheap burgers, under the delusion that we're conquering nature. But even before the trees fall, LiDAR, a 3D laser scan, reveals a hidden urban grid, miles of causeways and geometric geoglyphs etched into the earth. We aren't just clearing a wilderness, we're destroying the ruins of an engineered landscape we never knew existed. And the people that history pushed aside, they were the only ones who knew how to maintain it.